here in Bonita Springs. Welcome. Please rise for the invocation. Introduce yourself and where you're at.
My name is James Julian. I'm the pastor at New Life Church, just off of Vanderbilt. We always say if you know where Royal Scoop ice cream is, we're right across the street. A lot of people in New Life or in Bonita tend to frequent that shop for some reason or the other. So next time you're over there grabbing some ice cream on Sunday, stop by and visit us. Our worship starts at 11 o'clock. In fact, next year we're going to be celebrating 110 years of ministry in Bonita Springs. We used to be located in Old Bonita and relocated around 2000 to the Vanderbilt Drive area. And on October 30th, we're going to have our annual fall trunk or treat from 6 to 8:30, and we have about 400 to 500 people from all around Lee and Collier counties come and have a great time with their families. And I hope you'll join me in prayer this morning. Heavenly Father, we come in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. We thank you, Lord, for the sparing of lives in this area from the last hurricane. We pray for those who have experienced property and loss of possessions in that time, Lord. But we lift up those who were more indirectly the path of Helene, and we pray, Lord, that you would comfort the families, the hundreds that have lost lives. We pray that you would comfort, that you would bring power, that you would bring peace into their lives, and that as this area knows how important it is for relief programs, we pray that we would find an organization, a nonprofit that is actively on the ground now, meeting the needs, bringing in water and electricity and emergency supplies for those that have literally lost everything. We lift them up to you, Lord. May they find peace in you. And Father, I pray that, and ultimately we will all, in our individual hearts, find peace from the God of peace that would pass all understanding. We pray for Bonita Springs. We pray that you will be glorified in not just the churches, the homes, the businesses, Lord, that we would look to you, the author and the finisher of our faith, and that these meetings today and in the weeks to come, Lord, that decisions will be made, Lord, yes, for prosperity, but more importantly, so that we could be a city on a hill, a light, not just to this nation, to this state, but to the world, that we follow you. We love you, Lord, and we thank you for your grace. We thank you for patience. We thank you for all the blessings, and ask now that you would be glorified in all that's discussed. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance on 3, 1, 2. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bogas.
Here.
Councilmember Purdon.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Fullick.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Okay.
Hardy?
All right, we have the mayor's welcome. I'm the mayor, Rick Steinmeier, and you're welcome. I'm glad to see some people from the public are here. You can also catch us on our website, BonitaSprings.com. And so thanks for being here. Approval of the agenda. Anybody want to make that?
Approve. Motion to approve.
Second.
In a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye. Okay, public comment on the agenda items. I see none. Okay, consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Okay, there's supposed to be an opportunity for council to comment at this time. What is it, 8C, eight D, the bioreactor. We're spending $53,000 a year to check the water. Does that make us
No, sir.
a good investment?
No, that's not correct. We have a $53,000 monitoring contract for a period of time. It's not every year. They just have to finish up a report due back to the state. Part of this is grant funded through the grant funding we received from the state. So it's not an annual.
Mandated, this is
Correct.
mandated by
And
the
it's a one time. It's not an annual recurring thing.
Okay, very good for clarifying that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We approved that. Did we vote?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
9.
You guys are moving along so fast here.
Presentation.
Presentation, East Terry Street, stormwater.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're down to number 9A already.
Yes, absolutely. For the record, I'm Ellie McEwen, a member of your Public Works Department. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce you to Joe Bond. He is with the engineering firm out of Lakeland with Rummel, Clapper, and Call. And we lovingly call them RK&K. He is going to walk you through what we are proposing to design the stormwater and multi-use pathway improvements will look like. He's also going to talk to you about the results from the well-attended neighborhood meeting back in mid-August. And so I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
All right, let's see if we can get this thing. I thought my eyes were better than this. All right, good, we got the right one. All right, I got a crash course in this pointer, so we're gonna see how this goes. So I appreciate your time today. I'll try not to take too much of it. As Ellie said, my name is Joe Bond with RK&K. I'm your consultant with this monitor that just went off. Okay, we're good. Designing the East Terry Street Stormwater and Multi-Use Pathway Project. Here to give you a quick update. So the purpose and need for this project was the severe flooding that occurred during Hurricane Irma and then subsequently during Hurricane Ian. We also saw some earlier a few weeks ago, or a week ago. A lot of flooding occurred on East Terry Street, and the purpose of this project is to provide some mitigation for that, improve conveyance, make sure that it doesn't happen again. We also have a multimodal component here where we're going to increase bicycle, pedestrian connectivity, shared use paths, that type of thing. We'll get into the details. The funding was provided by a community development block grant, $16.8 million. Here's a nice photo of some of our council members accepting the check from Ron DeSantis. As I said, the location is from Old 41 to Bonita Grand Drive, about 2.5 miles. It goes over I-75 and passes through Imperial Parkway intersection. So the first area of stormwater improvement I wanted to talk about is at Center Avenue. These aerials, a lot of the aerials you'll see here are from Hurricane Irma, so you can see the flooding right there in the photo. Our proposed improvement here, which was modeled hydraulically, is to add a pipe down Center Avenue to provide extra relief, getting that water down to Letner Creek. We're going to provide some key backflow preventers at certain locations to also keep that water from stacking back up into the lower intersection. We mentioned a 24-inch pipe on here. I also want to mention that this project has not been permitted yet, so as we go through that permitting process, sometimes a pipe diameter will change for regulators, modeling, whatever, so just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. But this improvement is estimated to eliminate flooding on 2 lanes during the 25-year event. So you'll have, where before you had all of the lanes inundated, you'll have 2 lanes free the entire 25-year storm and the waters will recede. I apologize, looks like the fonts aren't coming through very well, so apologies for that. But the next area is just east of Imperial Parkway. We saw a lot of flooding from Elaine Drive to Oliver Drive. And to mitigate that, we're improving conveyance by adding some larger side drain pipes, draining the water to the west down to Imperial Parkway, and we're adding another pipe down Imperial Parkway to an existing cross drain. So kind of helping to get the water flowing out of there, provide an easier path for it, and closing off some of the ditches in that area. Now moving over to just east of I-75, you can see that we had flooding between Morton Avenue and Morton Grove Drive. The reason there's flooding in this area is because all the conveyance is on the north side of the road, and it's all going down to I-75, and there's a choke point right as the water comes under East Terry Street going south. You can see the yellow flow arrows there. So to bypass that choke point, we're adding some storm drains to have some of that storm water come on the south side of East Terry and then go down, bypass the choke point, you get some flooding relief through that. And lastly, for stormwater, Bonita Grand Drive, you can see the water stacking up on this intersection. Our proposal is to add a box culvert just west of the intersection and a additional side drain pipe. This is going to allow that water to get from the north side of East Terry down to the south into the conservation area, a little bit easier, relieve that flooding. You can see a grayed out roundabout here. This is by others, another project not associated with this one, but we're just designing to harmonize with it. Now moving to the multimodal component. The image on the top is East Terry Street today, west of I-75. You can see that there's a small sidewalk on one side and a non-continuous sidewalk on the other. We propose a shared use path continuous on the south side of East Terry Street. This will go from Imperial Parkway all the way moving to the east, and a sidewalk continuous over to Pinecrest on the north side. We're keeping everything as far away from the curb as possible, maximize the safety for those pedestrians. We're including landscaping. You can see a small pipe, not really to scale there, that blue circle representing that we're piping that ditch to make room for the sidewalk. Another improvement in this area is a signal proposed at Pinecrest Lane or Southern Pines Drive. This is mainly the result of our public meeting where we heard a lot about the congestion at this intersection and concerns. So this is a way to fit what we could do with this project dollars to help that situation. Now progressing to the east, here is the bridge over I-75. So the existing bridge is 2 lanes, 2 vehicular lanes, and 8-foot shoulders. We're going to take some of the space from the shoulders to create a protected bike pedestrian safe space on the south side. You'll have a barrier there, as you can see in blue. You'll have fencing as well to protect not just the vehicles on I-75, but also the pedestrians and cyclists passing through there. So big improvement. You'll now have safe pedestrian and bicyclist connectivity across the interstate. Now looking to the east of that, the area is basically a 2-lane road with no real bicycle or pedestrian amenities. We're going to add paved shoulders there. That provides a way for cyclists who prefer to be on the roadway to cycle. It also will improve safety for vehicles as well, having that paved shoulder. The big bike ped amenity here is the shared use path on the south side, though. You can see there's an existing dual ditch system on the south side of the road for most of this area, and we're going to take the berm between them, widen it out to have a path there, and landscaping as well. It'll be a very nice amenity. Bringing you back to the Imperial Parkway intersection. This is how it looks today, and I put some cars on the image here to represent the queuing that we've seen occurring that stacks up far beyond this image. But it can be a real problem during peak hours. The solution that we were able to fit into the budget of this grant is to add a dual left turn lane and to extend that right turn lane further back. This allows more cars to move through the intersection per cycle, reducing the congestion, improving conveyance through there. We did hear some concerns during the public meeting about access to Wildwood Pines during high congestion times. So you can see the box with the X in there. That's a do not block the box symbol that will allow for a space to continue in and out as needed. Also wanted to talk about the Morton Avenue intersection. A safety study done before we began our design identified a lot of vehicles coming over the I-75 bridge and then encountering a long queue behind someone trying to make a left turn into Morton Avenue. So our solution for that safety issue is to put a roundabout here. This will allow vehicles to continuously flow around. It's a single lane roundabout, so nothing too complicated. But vehicles will not have that queue anymore, and it'll improve sight distance for those vehicles coming over I-75. This also allows safe crossing of East Terry Street, Morton Avenue, all the legs of this intersection for pedestrians. So folks who are going to be using this new trail amenity will now have a safer access to get to it and back to their homes. Few safety items on roundabouts. You guys have these, so you're fairly well aware of their safety benefits. Dramatic reductions of injuries, fatalities, safer for bikes, peds. The one I like to point out is that they are fully functional during hurricanes. So even if the power goes out, roundabout's still functioning. Ellie mentioned a neighborhood meeting. We had one on August 15th, very well attended. Talked to as many folks as I could out there. Some great residents offering their honest thoughts and positive feedback and suggestions where they could. And in general, they were very supportive of the stormwater improvements for the project, supportive of the multimodal amenities. They did have concerns about capacity and congestion at the Southern Pines Drive / Pinecrest Lane intersection, which we've mitigated with that signal. So it was a very positive meeting, and I think that changed some of the direction of the project to more align with what the residents would like. Wrapping up, this is my last slide with our schedule here. We submitted 60% design to the city about 2 months ahead of schedule, so we're looking pretty good. That was about a month ago now, and we're moving forward with 90%, going into permitting. That's always a big wild card. We never really know when we're going to get our permits, sometimes at the agencies. But the plan is to have final design in the summer of 2025 and begin construction in the winter of 2025. That's a pretty aggressive pace, but we're making it work. I did want to mention that construction is a 12-month thing. So we've had some people ask at the public meeting, well, why start in the winter? Why not start in the spring or the fall? It's going to be a full 12 months of construction, so there isn't a way to start it and not impact a certain season, unfortunately. So, thank you for your time.
Yes, we don't have to purchase any private property,
There is no property acquisition as part of this project, correct?
okay? And on these roundabouts, we found that people crosswalks, if they're too close to the intersection, it causes a problem. Can we spread those
Yep.
crosswalks a little further?
Yeah, the standard is to have them approximately 20 feet away from the circulatory roadway, which is the intersection you're talking about. That allows for a vehicle to go past the crosswalk and then sit there if they needed to wait, for someone to get through the circle and then go. So there's space before and after the crosswalk for a vehicle to sit. These crosswalks will have RRFBs, which is a term I know because I use it all the time, but it's rectangular flashing beacons. You've seen the yellow sign with a strobe, and you can push a button and it'll activate and alert cars that a pedestrian is crossing. So it'll have those on all corners to improve safety.
Matt, didn't we move the crosswalks to further from the circle on Terry?
Excuse me. We did a couple of things on Terry Street. We moved really one crosswalk further, and that was a leg that had an exceptional amount of pedestrian traffic, quite honestly. I don't think you'll see that happening at this intersection based on the demographics of what goes on there. The other thing we did, which this design incorporates, is we removed, it was kind of like a redirection feature in the crosswalk that forced you to have to zigzag. We made it so that it was more of a straight crossing, and you can see in this design they have the straight crossing as well. So We can look at stretching the crosswalks out a little further, but there is a distance that you don't want to go too far, because as someone comes out of the roundabout, they're accelerating. So you don't want to put a pedestrian too far out there because someone's accelerating out of the
The other
intersection.
direction, yeah.
So there's a balancing act, but we can certainly look at that.
Okay. Very good. Yes, Chris?
The Center Avenue 24-inch pipe, has that been harmonized with what Baron Collier's planning to do with that property?
Well, it's being I won't let Joe speak for this, but Joe is a sub-consultant to the designer of Goodwin Street, which is being harmonized with Baron Collier. Really where the harmonization is happening is the 24-inch pipe. Joe's the drainage engineer on the other project. He's the head engineer on this one. They're harmonizing that with the Goodwin Street design. It's worked out pretty well to have that synergy there.
Okay.
Lightner Creek is still gonna run that way, is that right?
Yes, it's still, Lightner Creek will still flow. It's just, I don't know if you can see the staining in the image, but just to the east of the roundabout, there's a puddle that forms. It actually formed 2 months ago. We had a real intensive rainstorm. It didn't last very long, but it did form.
The Center Avenue and at the end of Center Avenue?
Yep. And so this provides a path to get it to Lightner Creek so it doesn't sit there.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Yes.
Is there going to be any kind of flashing light or signal or anything showing that there's a stoplight possibility there at the coming over 75, approaching the stoplight at Southern Pines?
There's quite a bit of sight distance to the Pinecrest intersection. So I don't believe we had planned on putting that in, but I can bring that up with our traffic engineers and see if we can look at adding something like that, talk with Ellie and see that those. It's a relatively inexpensive thing to add.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
For context, Matt, maybe you can answer this. The roundabout, the distance at West Terry and Old 41, what's the distance there? Was that 16 feet? I know you're talking about 20 feet now on the new roundabout. So I just want some context as how much more.
I'm not really familiar.
But is it slightly more?
This one probably is more. The roundabout at West Terry Street has a lot of different factors that this intersection really doesn't have. So yeah, I suspect they were a little closer in the original design than what they're proposing, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, and the only question that I had was on slide number 9, just that when you look at the photograph, I'm hoping, and maybe it's just the image, will East Terry be slightly wider, even by a couple inches on each side? Because if you're there when the truck traffic's on there, you're wincing every time they go by each other.
Yeah, so the pavement width, we're not changing. I believe it's 11 feet in both lanes. But you can see that there's a curb there, so that does add 1.5 feet of gutter pan.
Okay.
I can't officially tell you that's part of the lane.
But it's in addition to, more or less. Okay, thank you.
There will be an additional gutter pan, yeah.
Well, one thing that we get concerns about regularly is speeding, and one of the things that when you have a closer feel of a lane, that does provide for an automatic reduction in speed the more narrow the lanes are. If you look similar to downtown, because you're approaching on US 41 towards downtown Fort Myers, you'll see it's 3 lanes, but they've done a reduction in lanes to encourage the slowing of speeds.
Thank you.
It's a traffic calming process.
Didn't know that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe. Terrific present, and your team did a great job in August. It was really wonderful. And there were some folks that would like lessons to how to do roundabouts. And my age and older probably, but it was really an excellent turnout, and people were really thrilled with what you showed and what we were going to get. So thank you.
Thank you. You have a great community here. I wish we had this kind of participation in other parts of the state. So.
When will your 90% gonna be available?
So I believe our schedule has us putting 90s out in January or February. I'd have to check for you. If you ask Ellie, we can get you the exact number, exact date
And
there.
then after that, then how long does construction start?
It really, Mr. Mayor, if I may, you're at a phase in the project, because you don't need right-of-way, which was your first question. You're at a phase where really it hinges on permitting agencies. So it's the South Florida Water Management District permit is kind of the key permit here. We also have an FDOT permit with what you see on the overpass. And so those two things will really dictate how quickly we can deliver the project. But what Joe laid out here on the schedule is, as he said, is pretty aggressive, and that's what we're trying to hit. And they're doing a pretty good job of, being ahead of schedule and producing the plans. But it will really lie with the permitting agency.
Any feedback from BSU in terms of the pathway as it crosses the front of their property, or any other issues with BSU?
I'll let Joe speak to it, but this corridor, we're always, when we do a project, a drainage project, which is really what this is, our drainage pipes going in the ground usually create some point of conflict with BSU's existing utilities, as well as others. If they're in our right-of-way, they really have to relocate. In this project, this is a significant utility corridor for Bonita Springs utilities. And so from day one of giving Joe the marching orders, as best you can, we really need to avoid their infrastructure. So we've been mindful of that from the hiring through to this point. They have had utility coordination meetings. I'll let him speak to the details, but we've really tried to avoid that.
Yeah, that was made. That mandate was made very early on by both Matt and Ellie to minimize impacts wherever possible. We did send out our 30% plans to the utilities in May, just to make sure they knew exactly what we were doing. Now that we have 60s, we've sent those out to them. I believe they went out yesterday after we took some time to make sure what we were proposing was to the city's liking. We have a utility coordination meeting with them the end of this month. I believe it's the 22nd, perhaps. So yeah, utility coordination is really going to ramp up now that we have a drainage design, and we know where the pipes need to be, and we'll be minimizing impacts. We also had a separate meeting at Ellie's request with BSU maybe a month ago, month and a half, something like that, to make sure they were aware, let them see the latest that we had at that point, just kind of coordinate on sharing that right away.
Now, this being a grant, most of this are grant money, is that money going to be available to pay these people right away, or
Yes.
how does that work?
No, it's available, and then like all grant projects, I've already had to budget a little bit more of our money to really build the design that you see here. So, Joe develops estimates. I think we're carrying this at about 18 million, which is close to Joe's estimate right now. You have a $16 million grant, 16.8. So, as we get the designs refined, and then obviously as we come to bid, it will require some investment on our end, but yes, the money is available to pay them.
Anything else?
Well, thank you, Ellie, for getting the grant. And the other thing BSU probably really liked.
Fred, you got the floor.
That's okay. Go ahead. Let Laura finish what she's asking.
No, but the multimodal, because when I left the BSU board hearing meeting, it was probably 5:45, 6 o'clock. I saw so many young people, young men on bikes. So they're going to work or they're coming from work, so they'll be safer too. I mean, it'll be really a nice enhancement for our city.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, Fred.
My question's real simple.
Up with the microphone.
Is the diameter of the roundabout at 041 and Terry Street, is it bigger than that one or about the same?
I believe it's smaller. That's a multi-lane roundabout there, and this is just a single.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we had to keep this relatively tight because we didn't want to impact any right-of-way, right? So we have a small cutout in the northeast corner. That's to make sure that heavy trucks can get through there smoothly without issue. So yeah, we've designed this one smaller than that one.
Okay, thank you.
We just approve or We don't have to vote on this.
Oh, I think we're good.
Any more questions? Well, thank you. Thank you. Nice presentation.
I thought,
Thank you.
Matt, did you want to say one more thing?
The only thing I would point out, and Joe touched on it, is, you know, that these dollars came really to mitigate flooding. And so they've done a nice job. He explained the drainage system. I think we've done the most we can do along this corridor where we had flooding issues. All of the multimodal and all of the transportation things that you see are what we were able to kind of make the argument to the funding agency. Look, we're going to be here doing this. You know, these issues need to be addressed. So, you know, it's at the limit that it can be in terms of transportation improvements with the signals and the roundabouts. It really is just a drainage project from a funding perspective.
Anything else? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, city attorney, you have anything for us?
I have nothing,
You
please.
Take the day off, okay.
Ah.
City manager, I know she has.
Yes, we'll begin with the presentation of the August financial report. I'd like the finance director to come forward.
Good morning, Lisa
morning.
Robertson for the record. Today, we're going to start. We have some new news from the state, as we talk about all the time. The state economists do a great job of keeping up to date with their projections with respect to demographics, that's population, and that really impacts the state revenues a lot. And also with respect to the economy. Again, our state's economy, really, we can feel it, we impact it here. We mirror our budget projections based on what the state economists indicate. So just be sure when you hear these, the changes and estimates and things, please know we've incorporated in your budget, and your budget is in line with the state, and we do that each year. And this is why we bring you all that data, so that you can be aware of what things, you know, are happening demographically or projected to happen economically in the state, because it does impact our revenues here locally. The state held a Florida demographic estimating conference. At that conference, they projected a population estimate for April 2025 at 1.62% over the prior year amount. That's still a positive growth. But what we have been hearing for the last year, again, a kind of a common theme, but still anticipated to occur, is the forecast maintains population growth is going to be slowing modestly for the next 10 years. And
That's the state,
that's a statewide projection, but we will be feeling that here locally as well. They monitor migratory patterns, various things that they do, but that is really important when you look at this impacts our revenue, it impacts the people for our labor markets and things like that that our businesses need. So the last two bullets there, population growth over the next 5 years is expected to average 1.37. Again, the growth is slowing, but the growth is still there. So that's a positive economic thing. Yes, sir.
but that's for 25 million people, or how many people in the state?
I'd have to
You know,
quantify it.
1% of, you know, how many millions it is, it's still a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. It is a lot of people. Yes. So the last bullet there, annual growth rate drops below 1% in the 6 to 10 year period for the projection forecast. Most of the state projections that we see are for a 10-year forecast period. And again, they update them quarterly and annually to make sure they make adjustments for, for things that they're seeing in the economy and the other areas that impact their forecast. You can see this pictorially now. Growth in Florida resident population. It shows you, I apologize, this is kind of hard to read, this comes from the state, but you can see the red there kind of starts where we're doing projecting forward. You can see where we've been. This slide is actually back to 2000. So it gives you a history of where we as a state have been and how they think the growth is going to slow over the next 10 years. This is the growth in Florida residential households. Again, that's very important for us because residential households can behave differently economically speaking, their purchasing power, they impact us. So the state really monitors this closely. This slide is, I won't say my favorite one, but this one is very telling, and we have talked about this before over the last several years. Florida average household size. This is going down. We have all been talking about the influx in our state about the baby boomers and things of that nature. So what we've heard and now what we're seeing and the projections appears to be holding are households that previously had been four or more in a household are now going to be 2 people in a household. And again, economically, they behave differently, their purchasing habits, things of that nature, but it's something that we're seeing, and it's primarily driven by the influx of the baby boomers. Our households are being purchased by a 2-entity household. Florida Economic Estimating Conference. The conference continued to highlight the risk arising from continued price pressure caused by inflation. Again, nothing new here, but they're also making mention as well as the timing of the Federal Reserve actions. And they're watching both of those closely to project and help bring in line the outlook for the consumer spending. This is something they have been talking about for the last couple of quarters, but they do project weaker growth rates across the housing sector. We have seen that here locally. New housing starts have been down, resales maybe somewhat, but they're also, the good news on this slide is that the higher growth rates across the employment sectors continue. That means the employers in the state of Florida, they don't see a downward trend in the jobs that they have on the market. In fact, they see growth in that area, which is very good for our state economy. The state's economy expanded by a strong 4.4% in fiscal year 22-23, 4.5% in 23-24. But the growth is expected to slow, similar to the population, to about 2% over the next year. And then they're saying down there that the forecast period is somewhere around 2%. Our economy is huge, so a 2% growth is still a positive growth and still a very good thing. But just showing you, we all knew our economy was red hot a few years ago, and we didn't project that that was going to be long-term sustainable. So still positive news for our state. Another big indicator for our state is personal income growth. Again, they highlighted the areas when our economy was red hot. 7.7% growth 23-24, 5.3% 23-24. Current year projection is 5.6%. That's very good still. Now they do think it's going to slow and stabilize a little more, right around 5% in the forecast period thereafter. Very good for personal income growth for our state as a whole. Now, you will see this pictorially here. This is the Florida per capita personal income. That's per individual in the state. This number significantly impacts a lot of our revenue streams. So you'll see that they are projecting that to continue to increase. Again, very positive. The slides that I show you here, the 3 data points on there are different projections in the past. So what they're showing, what the state is showing us, that in December of 2019, that was the green line. Now their projections that as we got closer to this year have gone up, and those are more in line with what they're seeing. Again, they change their data points for changes in the economy, things that they're seeing to actually get a better forecast each year. Again, we talked about the Florida employment sector being still very strong and helping us as a whole. You can see that they're projecting growth in jobs in Florida employment to continue. Very good news. This slide tells the tale of our Florida labor market force participation rate. As we've talked about, with an influx of the baby boomers and a lot of our households converting from a traditional family to a 2-person baby boomer household, they are not participating in the labor market as well as much as the younger people who are in their households, non-retirees, if you will. So we knew this was happening. They're going to behave a little differently, but this has caused quite a little bit of a stretch on our labor market, because you see what they're saying is there's more jobs out there, and they think there's continue to be a high level of jobs, but the people who are living here in Florida aren't participating in the labor market and taking jobs as much as they did. So this is as a direct result of this next slide. They've projected Florida wages and salaries are going to continue to rise, again, because you have more jobs than you have people, and it impacts the rates at which they're compensated. Florida private housing starts. This is what we've been seeing here in Bonita and what they were talking about with the housing market. They are not seeing significant improvements in new starts or new constructions. Again, this is statewide, in the near term. Not a surprise, we've been prepared for that, our numbers reflect that. Florida existing single-family homes sold. Now, this they actually are projecting somewhat of an increase, which is a good thing. That means people are still buying our existing homes in Florida. Now let's get into Bonita's revenue report, if you will. This is August 31st. This is 11 months in our fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends. We just had 9/30 was our fiscal year end. We will continue. There'll be a couple more months of collections from revenues and expenses because we receive revenue after it's collected somewhat, and then we pay for services after they've been rendered. But this does give us a good idea. This is a very, very healthy diversification for our general fund revenues, regular recurring revenue. And what we do with the next slide, again, general fund revenue, this is our regular recurring revenue. You can see this is compared fiscal year to date, August 31st, to the immediately preceding fiscal year, August 31st. Most of these do have an upward trend. State shared revenue, which is the second data column over there, it's down a little bit. We projected that to happen. Yes, sir?
The affordable housing number, where's that come from? How did we end up with that?
That came from a bonus density that was purchased by a developer through their through the development process.
That's new?
It came in, it appeared on your report last time. Yes, it is brand new money, and it is sitting in our city as restricted for affordable housing.
From the developers?
The developer, under his developer agreement, purchased bonus density, and that had to be allocated.
Bonus density?
Bonus density, yes, sir.
That's from the city. So we sold that much bonus density?
Yes, sir. And your city attorney.
Okay, so let me correct that, sorry, we didn't sell bonus density. You have the ability within your land development code to provide for a developer to get an increase in density with an investment into your affordable housing program.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Arlene.
So that we had much more, we haven't had much bonus density in the past that I can remember.
No, sir, I think.
We have. Yeah, we have not had anyone, any bonus density funds come into the city in a number of years, maybe 10 or longer. We did at some point in the beginning of the city, but that money was expended for its intended purpose, but we have not received any of money like this in a great number of years.
Something new. I mean,
Well,
more density.
Let me correct that. So since the inception of the city, in your land development code, which I believe some of that was a carryover from Lee County, the actual language in the land development code, you had a program to provide the opportunity for developers to make an investment in affordable housing so that they could gain additional units. Prior to the recession, about 2012, 2013, the city had, as part of the organization of city, the Bonita Springs Affordable Housing Coalition, which there was an executive director, and the city administered a program for affordable housing. When the recession started, those funds had already been spent and programmed, and there wasn't additional funds coming in. There was actually a plethora of available housing at that time, and so the program finished, but you began to partner with Habitat for Humanity to provide those services in your community. So when there's been an opportunity of, for example, a transfer of ANC fees, which are basically the impact fees of Bonita Springs utilities, or an improvement to roadways or drainage in the communities where Habitat was building homes, you've built partnerships, and that has been your program for affordable housing. This is, again, we haven't had these funds in a long time, so we will have to discuss in future how you want to provide that investment, what programs you want to provide with that, and that's for a later discussion, but not for today.
Yes. Yes, and they are in your budget, and they are being carried forward as restricted and for that.
And the county commissioners just also granted a bunch of money for affordable housing to the city. So,
Private entity.
Close mine.
So what you're
Well, I know
referring
it's
to, the
different, but-
CDBG-DR, correct. So individual nonprofits were able, and I believe Habitat for Humanity was one of them, were able to provide for program funds from Hurricane Ian from the CDBG-DR. So that's not coming directly to the city of Bonita Springs, but it's happening within the city limits, yes, programmed by the nonprofits.
That's
I would just say, an easier way to look at it isn't like us selling it, it's a builder incentive. So pretty much, look at it like, don't look at it like something we sell, look at it as a development incentive, to where they get more units and we get more affordable housing. So it's not like something we're selling off like bonus density to people, it's people who have projects, and then within their project, they get the ability to get more density in this format. So it's not something separate that we're selling to them, it's more an incentive to get people to do affordable housing. So they're gonna put up a fancy neighborhood, but we still have a density issue, so they will get more units, but those units have to be, the money has to then go to the city in form of affordable housing. So they get it, but in order to get it, they have to give money to affordable housing. So it's a incentive to them to give us the things that we need in regards to density and affordable housing. So it's not like something separate we're selling them or anything like that.
No, but it still increases the density.
Yes,
of the
purposely,
southern
yes,
city.
yes.
And that's my major concern, that we overdevelop and we ruin the small town charm that we have. That's what I'm afraid of.
I think what,
You know, the
But-
affordable housing is a difficult subject.
yeah, so they give us money in lieu of, so they're not gonna build, they don't put an affordable housing, attachment onto it. Pretty much, they're gonna give us money, and then we as a city are gonna figure out how we're gonna use that money in the affordable housing realm.
We keep saying affordable housing, but aren't we really saying we're making housing more affordable in Bonita Springs? So everybody's got this in their head, affordable housing, we're gonna create housing for poor people. No, we're making housing more affordable for working people. That's what we're doing.
That's a good way to look at it.
and that's what we're doing.
Okay, well,
Thank you,
Bonita's
Lisa.
always been a retirement community. It's not a place where you come down here to work.
I work here.
I work here.
You work
I have a
here?
family here,
Oh, yeah.
I've
and
got
they would
7
like to be able to
employees
live
here,
in Bonita Springs. So
and I live here.
I think it's important.
It's still major.
Okay, let's
Sure.
get back to the meeting. We're almost done. It could be an early meeting for a change.
I'm in charge, not you. Come on now, you interrupted about 4 times today. Okay.
Can I ask,
I understand your point,
Thank you.
but the retired people, the snowbirds is the biggest part of our economy. And some people do live in Bonita like yourself. There are very few. Yes,
I was gonna ask Lisa a question. Lisa, the 2.2 million in interest and other income, do you anticipate that staying the same, increasing, decreasing?
That is a good question. The state chatted quite a bit about that at their revenue estimating conference. We're really unsure. That's kind of outside of our control. So as long as we do have our deposits, as you'll see, similar to the state, we accumulate funds to spend for our capital improvement programs. Those levels are higher until we disperse the funds. So that does drive up what the market is going to do. I'm not really sure. I don't want to.
As interest rates decrease, some of the money that we currently have is not gonna be earning the same.
Exactly. And it is earning in a short term until we can expend it for its intended purpose for those projects. Like the one we were talking about today, while that's a grant funded, we have the same principle for our other projects that we're doing. So really attempting to get those projects completed with those funds.
but that money goes into general fund.
We,
You can use that for reserve.
which money, I'm sorry, sir?
The interest income.
The interest.
If it's interest that's earned on our general fund revenue, which is our regular recurring revenue, it is unrestricted. Now, we do earn interest on our other restricted revenues, and when we earn interest, say, on road impact fees or park impact fees, that is restricted for the use
Okay, so
for what
they
it's intended.
separate it out.
We have it all separated. That's, yes, we sure do.
So then we put it all together, we got that much.
We sure do. Very good.
It's all spread out, so
Mhm.
it's hard to find.
Well, we're going to get to that slide in just a minute, and then I'll let y'all go on with your meeting. General fund, regular recurring expenses. We look at this slide each month because it gives us a good indicator. Current fiscal year as compared to the immediately preceding fiscal year. As we know, inflationary trends, some of these numbers are higher. That's primarily the reason that they're higher than the prior year. Restricted revenues, we were just talking about this. These are the revenues you'll see current fiscal year to date as compared to the immediately preceding prior fiscal year to date. We are really pleased to say, our building permit fees have been higher than they were in the prior year and higher than we anticipated with the data that we're receiving about the new starts in construction. Road impact fees, and again, we're populating these funds into your budget for allocation to capital improvement projects. Particularly road impact fees are restricted for that. These are the ones we were talking about when we accumulate funds. These are our cash balances. We do, this is a balance sheet, so we do current year and the immediately 2 years preceding, so you can see the fluctuation and the trends. If the funds are going up, we're accumulating funds for our capital improvement projects to be expended. If they're going down, then that means we're spending them for that. So those are the changes here. And if anything is earned on this, it is restricted as to the nature. So this just gives you an idea of the different pots of money. We separate them all, and they're here for you. And that's all that I have for y'all today.
All right, thank you. That's
Okay.
very
Thank you very
comprehensive.
much. Thank you.
Okay, city manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. At this time, I'm going to ask you to confirm and ratify the City of Bonita Springs Resolution 2472, which declared a state of local emergency of the potential impacts at that time of Tropical Storm Helene. It is now Hurricane Helene. Additionally, I'd ask that you approve an extension of that. We do understand that Governor DeSantis requested and did receive from FEMA Declaration 4828, which provides for the opportunity for direct assistance to our residents, as well as public assistance. And as we give you some updates on the hurricane response, we will definitely be requesting some of that public assistance for categories A and B, which includes debris removal and directive emergency protective measures, which includes your staff. Before I turn it over to the directors to kind of give you an update, I will combine this with item C, but if you could give me the other item I'm actually going to ask for a vote on is, at this time, we would like to request that you permit me to sign an executive order to waive building permit fees for Hurricane Helene. I would suggest at this time we have an end date of January 31st, but before that we can revisit it because we're already going to be coming to you for a closure of the Hurricane Ian fees, which would be January 31st as well. But we would want to reevaluate mid-January whether we need an additional extension of that. But that would give us plenty of time and the holidays to make the public aware of the waiver of the fees and their deadlines approaching. We'd also have an opportunity to get feedback from folks who are in the permitting process. So even sooner that, if we needed to come back to you in December or so to say, hey, we got folks out there with roofing permits or rehab permits that need additional time, we'd be able to brief you on that and ask for that extension. So the actual vote items I'm asking for is the confirmation of the mayor's signature to the resolution, an extension of the state of emergency, and the ability for me to sign into an executive order the waiver of the permit fees.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes. Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
And then item C, I'd like to amend to.
Second, are we in pretty good shape with FEMA with this new storm?
We're going to update you on that. We have each department has an update. We want to make sure we make clear for the record the response we've had and the communication we had directly with Region 4 Director Robert Simon and his staff. I would like to amend item C to be update on hurricanes Ian and Helene recovery. And with that, I'd like Tony Backhurst, your Emergency Management Director, to come forward and kind of give you the overview of our response.
Hey, Tony.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. For the record, Tony Backhurst, Director of Neighbourhood Services and Emergency Management. I'm going to give an overview of kind of a before, during and after what we're dealing with now for Hurricane Helene. And I'll try to keep the acronyms down as much as possible when I'm going through this, but if you need clarification and I've forgotten to explain them, please call me out on that. So prior to the storm, we're constantly monitoring in conjunction and collaboration with partners at the EOC and also with our municipal partners. So we were monitoring from pretty much 7 days out and constantly looking at it, and we enacted our EOP, our Emergency Operations Plan, and started to look at what we needed to do. So all the storm prep that incorporates Public Works, Neighbourhood Services, and other departments, communications is incredibly vital that we get the correct information out. All of that stuff had gone into play prior to the storm. Information was disseminated out by communications on it as much as we could to the residents, but as with storms, they are unpredictable, and we work within the parameters of the information that we've received. So during the storm, city staff, along with our partners with the LCS, Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, DOT, all of these departments, we all work in conjunction, collaboration. We really appreciate everything they do. The most important thing during the storm and immediately after is called a FIDA, which is the First Impression Damage Assessment. What that does is talks about accessibility of roads, down power lines, anything that is immediate with regards to transportation, and by virtue of that, then information can go out to the residents, stay in place, and accurate information is going out. So city staff, with the way this storm came through, we had initial flooding in the morning as a result of the high tide, and the flooding did create inaccessible areas that was subsequently then disseminated out to the public in as efficient manner as we could get. Once it receded, we were having the winds, and then in the evening, we subsequently then got the storm surge, which combined with a high tide in the early hours of the morning. So city staff worked through this to try to get as much information out, so the picture of what is occurring here is going to the correct places. So the FIDA, and I'm going to get into the initial damage assessment, that is software that all the agencies are inputting this information. It is then available and viewable by our Emergency Operations Center in Lee County, and state, and then subsequently the federal partners all have a view of what is going on in real time. So the importance of that is obviously vital, and that was ongoing. Following the storm, city buildings and parks were inspected, and our Parks and Rec department were obviously involved in that. Public Works as well in observing the roads, and we went out and started conducting the initial damage assessments. So that began early Friday morning. The primary damage was flooding. There was some very minor wind damage, but it was in essence, it was 4 areas that kind of been hit hard through Tropical Storm Debbie, Idalia last year, and Ian. There's the 4 areas. You've got Hickory Island, Spring Creek, Imperial Shores, and then the finger streets off of Imperial from West Terry and Pennsylvania. Now, the IDAs, when we're going out, we're looking at high water marks on the buildings, and I will some people will say minor damage. I will give you the categories of what we do, so it does make sense in the numbers I also provide. While we're doing the IDAs, it's a really good opportunity to do outreach and education with the public, interact with the public, and we can find out what their needs are, because this all needs to be obviously communicated to the people that are making the decisions. It also assists in allocation of resources, and when we're doing the assessments, it can also give an early idea of what the debris is going to be. If you've got a lot of water intrusion into residences, it's a good way to estimate what that debris is going to be, and it gives Matt the chance to figure out what we're going to need to do in prior preparation. So there was approximately, I just got these numbers in this morning, and we have got the IDA completed. For all intents and purposes, that has been done. Thousands of residences were observed. We can approximate 800 residences had some level of water intrusion. Now that can be from 1 inch up to, I think we've seen 36 inches. So in the categories, the way it is categorized is 30 had major damage, which would be 18 inches or more of water intrusion. 180 had minor damage, which would be 3 inches to 18 inches. And then 600 were affected. Excuse me. Obviously, they're all affected, but this category affected is 3 inches or less. And some of that can be in garages, non-livable space, but we still do categorize that. And in going out there and speaking with the public, many of our residents are incredibly resourceful. They've utilized a bunch of products that are out there on the market that you can see infomercials on, and they've sealed around the bottom of doors. And you can have a house with a 6-inch watermark, but there's nothing inside because they've sealed it. Now, we're not advocating for any use of any product, but so some of the stuff, when we do follow up on this, is some of these numbers may change. So the other benefit of the IDA is it also gives our community development department some idea of what they can expect from permitting down the road as well, to forecast and help them with that. We are still currently monitoring the weather system that is sitting in the Northwest Caribbean, and with potential for whatever at this point. Right now they're calling for a rain event, but we are still watching that stuff as well, just to keep you up to date.
Hickory Shores condominium we have downstairs, we don't have any living space down there. We have 16 inches of sand. Now, how deep the water was, I don't know. What do we do with that sand? Do you want to buy some sand, or what can we do? You know, down Hickory, it's clean. It's not like Eon where we had to clean all that sand.
To clarify, the DEP has sent out information regarding the removal of sand and the redistribution of sand. There's a guideline for that as well. If it is on your own private property, is the responsibility of the property owner. If it's on the roadways or in the public right-of-way, it's the responsibility of the right-of-way owner. It could in essence be the Lee County or the city of Bonita Springs.
It's amazing since there's no dead fish, there's no dead shells, there's no debris, and a nice clean beach sand. I don't know how it managed to do that. I don't know.
At this time, I'd like Aida and Mike to come forward, just a very brief update on the information you're receiving from the public regarding permitting.
Good morning, Aida Lonergan with Community Development as the city's floodplain manager. I do take point on the restoration and hurricane recovery permits. We are starting to see those roll into the office. We actually started receiving the first one on Monday. Multiple phone calls, including people looking to voluntarily elevate equipment. They were nervous after Ian. This has certainly made them a little more cautious on how they choose to recover. So we're doing our standard operating procedures on educating them both on the minimum federal guidelines, the state's regulations with that, which did become more restrictive post-Ian. They kicked in January 1st of this year, and of course the always committed program that the city maintains in its flood hazard reduction program. So we are seeing those things in. We are collaborating with FEMA on how to best approach some of these projects where they may not have completed their Ian repairs yet. So now we need to run new calculations and merge this together in an effective, transparent way that FEMA is pleased with in the reporting.
So thank you. Yeah, we're going to be collaborating with FEMA. This is one of the questions discussed in our meeting, is how we're going to address those who are suffering Hurricane Ian damage and still in recovery, and now have unfortunately received damage from Hurricane Helene. Additionally, I just want to make it understood too that Aida and her team are doing outreach, are participating in the IDAs with all of Tony's team. At this time, when they are making contact with residents, they are receiving information on how to attain a permit, a restoration permit, and they are being informed that all restoration requires a permit from the city of Bonita Springs. And so we will also be setting up a dedicated email address that will be able to be distributed to both Tony's team and Aida's team simultaneously, so that each of them can address separate needs.
But these permits are free right now.
As of right now, you just authorized those permits to be free until January 31st of 2025.
Be afraid to get a permit.
Thank you. And then,
You
thank you,
must
Aida.
get a permit.
Nicole's just going to give you a brief update on parks and her direct communication with Lee County Parks as well.
Good morning, Nicole Perino, Parks and Recreation Director. I do have good news. Our parks did come out pretty well with Hurricane Helene, thank goodness. We do have minor damage throughout some of the parks. A lot of cleanup was done by our staff. So our staff did, some came out on Thursday during the storm, and then we also had all of our park maintenance staff on Friday, very early in the morning, to do assessments of all of our facilities and to get them reopened as quickly as possible. So we did kind of a phased opening. We do only have 6 guys, so we did. It did take a little bit of time to get through. We had a lot of down limbs, palm fronds, all of those things. So we did have to clear trails, clear the dog park before we could reopen, just to make them safe. We have been in communication with Lee County due to the beach accesses and the city's beach parks. So that is the only thing that's still closed at this point, are the beach accesses due to the amount of sand, as you were saying, Mayor, that we received, and the cleanup of those facilities. So we are working with them on their cleanup as well as our cleanup. We did have some washout issues and things like that we're working through, but those are really the only issues that we still have ongoing. And as Tony mentioned, monitoring the rain events, because that could have some effect on our fields and things like that.
Nicole, any issues with the first floor of the Lyles?
No, none of our buildings had any issues or any damages. It was, in terms of damages, we had like soccer goal nets, and we had a shade structure top. So it was nothing major that we had at this time, as well as it was very nice, and we were happy to see that none of our buildings had any issues. With that, we did reach out, and I was in communication throughout the storm with the Wonder Gardens. So I did want to make sure those are our facilities. The buildings themselves, they didn't have any water intrusion at all, as well as the grounds. The grounds did not suffer any water damage. They just had some minor limbs and palm front, the same debris sort of thing that they had to clean up, and they were open right away.
The animals are fine.
Yeah, excuse me.
I just said the animals were also fine.
Yep, they were all safe.
All right. Down at Beach Park North, the shade structures, they had tile roofs on, and the tile roofs are gone.
That was due to Hurricane Ian. We're
Yeah.
still in rebuild for that. So they didn't suffer any additional damage from Helene.
No, but are they going to be repaired? Or?
Yes, we are still building back from Hurricane Ian throughout our parks.
And then there's the foot bath used to have a little bit of a shower there. They're going to put that back in.
It still has the foot bath is still there, and that has already been replaced.
Okay,
But that was due to Hurricane Ian.
right. Okay, anything else? Thank you. Yes.
Is time for question?
Well, the only other update I had was I'd like Matt Feeney to go over the Hickory Boulevard sand roadways, and then also, as we move forward into debris removal as well.
Good morning. Just briefly, kind of the echo the mayor's comments. I did see some fish. They were on McLaughlin. They were small, but we did kind of benefit with this storm. Most of the sand ended up on the county's portion, unfortunately, of Hickory Boulevard. We have cleaned the small portion that is the city's north of Nichols Beach Park. We've got some additional cleanup to do, but the bulk of the sand is off the roadway. It's just a thin layer. We're working on Bay Road. There's some mud there. That's a little more difficult to deal with. It's harder to remove, but we're taking some action to clean that up. The fortunate part is we didn't really see mud on the other major street, McLaughlin, like Hurricane Ian did. So you're right, Mayor. It was in some ways a little cleaner storm for us. The county continues to remove sand. They have the road clear. They're cleaning it up out of the right-of-way. It looks like some homeowners are pushing the right-of-way sand to Hickory Boulevard's right-of-way, so that'll probably be more of an ongoing process over time. We have issued notices to proceed to our disaster relief contractor, Crowder Gulf, as well as the monitoring firm Thompson, and they will be taking steps to pick up debris. This is not like the previous storms. This is not a free-for-all for homeowners to do spring cleaning. We're really trying to address the folks that Tony mentioned that had flooding damage. So it's a small number of people that were affected, but it affected them greatly. We'll be cleaning that debris up and taking it off, but you won't see the same level of effort that you would see, say, post-Ian with trucks all over the city. We're working on how to address that as we speak.
Where does this new state refunding thing on the storm, is that coming into play?
Couple things are coming into play here is that we are participating in the FROC program, which is something that Governor DeSantis has implemented, where we're able to pre-qualify for, we would estimate the amount of reimbursement we anticipate from FEMA, and we would be able to be pre-qualified for those funds in advance. So that's what we're working towards. There'll also be expenses, regarding, I wanted to cover some of the expenses we've already have in our emergency response. We deployed staff throughout the entire storm. We had staff actually lodging at the old library so that they could have immediate response once the winds were clear to drive. And so we did enact our ordinance of emergency pay, which we fully anticipate to be reimbursed through FEMA, through the declaration. I also have an update from BSU. I was able to speak to the executive director. We were in constant communication throughout the entire time, and they just wanted to report that they are in good standing. They did have one lift station on Hickory with some intrusion, but they did mitigation measures requiring, there was no sewer spills or any major water main breaks throughout the entire storm. So they did remain, as I said, in constant communication with us throughout the entire storm. I also wanted to make sure that we greatly recognized our other community partners, Bonita Springs Fire Department, especially Chief DeWitt, who was in constant communication. LCSO, Community Policing, Captain Blake Lee and Lieutenant Bruton were in constant communication. We're able to troubleshoot minor resident issues throughout the way, making sure that we were completely addressing those folks that were in most harm's way during the event, and then addressing any emergency needs afterwards. I want to greatly send my appreciation to Lee County Manager Dave Harner, especially Lee County DOT, who worked in hand with us on the removal of about 3 foot of sand along Hickory Boulevard. We were able to get the majority of that in a day, but we did need to coordinate all of those efforts through LCSO. So we did have, limited access to Hickory Boulevard, which enabled the sand removal to happen very quickly and expeditiously on our end as best we could. I think as of right, and from now on going forward, we're going to amend that agenda item to both Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Helene, and we'll advise as long as we need the actual emergency orders in place so that we can give full assistance to any residents who need that direct assistance. And also, we're encouraging anyone who is in need to please dial the 211 number. That is still active right now, so if you do need assistance, and we will get more information out once we know where, I believe the SBA loan has also been enacted, so that we can have where the resource centers will be. The only other item I wanted to also mention is that we will be coordinating with Lee County on a spot to dispose the debris. So the previous spot is not going to be used. We will be working with Lee County on a joint spot for the debris removal.
Anything else?
I think that's it right now.
Yes, Chris.
I read in the paper this morning, or yesterday, one of the two, that the Dunes project undertaken by Fort Myers Beach worked. It's gone as a result of the hurricane, but it worked in terms of what it was supposed to do in protecting those properties. That was $10 million that was spent on that. And I know we got our project started for Bonita Beach after turtle season. I don't know the layout of Bonita Beach as compared to Fort Myers Beach. They talked about Fort Myers Beach being lower, and but I'm just wondering, it would be good if people realize that don't want any of the dunes work done on Hickory, to realize that they're not only putting themselves in jeopardy of these kinds of storms, but they're also putting their neighbors in jeopardy. The second thing is that is this something we need to think about in terms of reserves going forward, to the extent that our money is going into that dunes project? If we get a storm that wipes out the dunes, because that's what they're intended to do, to protect, do we need to start thinking about building some reserve over time for that eventuality? So that's just a question. I don't expect an answer, but it's something we could discuss in January if we have a visioning kind of project.
Chris, we have been accumulating funds for the north end of Little Hickory Island. That has been renourished 3 times, I believe. Because we know we're pretty sure we'll need to do that every 10 years or whatever. We have been setting aside money for that project in anticipation. That's one particular place.
All I can offer is that the mayor's correct, and certainly as storms change the volume for the recurring project, let alone inflation, the dollars do come up. The state has been very good in being a partner, more than a partner, an investor in terms of funding. The South Bonita project is different in character because the sand goes to your comments where the dune line is, and that is absolutely private property. And so to do the project, it has been very difficult because we do have property owners that are not interested, rightfully so, to get easements, because once you place the sand, you do have to monitor it for a period of 3 years. So we had just a critical mass to be able to do the project we're doing. There are certainly people that are not interested and will not get sand placement. So, to consider what you're saying, just understand that it's not like the North Restoration Project where there are existing easements and there's a certainty to it. Once these easements expire in about 4 years from now, there will be no immediate ability for the city to go onto the south and do that again. You'd have to negotiate easements again.
I just have a comment, and that's, do you know when the federal money and the state money won't be there for us? Is if the economy flattens out or goes south, that money won't be there. So the fact that we're planning now, I sure hope that people don't think we have enough reserves. We don't.
You have any good news for us?
Yeah, I will in my report, but let's not put a cherry on the top of everything and say everything's fine now, because it's not. Sorry, I'll be the bad guy.
Somehow we've gotten through 25 years. We have $100 million sitting to do things with, but you always find something to complain
You know,
about.
Mayor, you keep saying we've got $100 million, like, it's there, and we've already allocated it. We have projects going on that, where that money's going. We've got people in our community think we've got 100 million in reserves, and we don't,
I didn't say that. We have $100 million
that we've already spent.
that we haven't spent it.
We're going to spend it. We've got projects that we've already allocated that money for.
Finished voting on it.
Not all of it, but anyways.
Somebody needs to say that everything's not fine, and it'll be fine as long as the economy's okay. The economy's not okay, we won't be okay.
Okay, Chicken Little, sky is falling.
I resent that, Mayor. I am not Chicken Little, and I'm sure tuned into this budget more so on what's happening with the economy than you are. You want to get into a debate on the economy? Oh, well, we can get a debate on that privately.
What did you study in college?
Business.
Business,
And what am I in right now?
Okay,
Banking.
point of order.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking to him, Laura.
I know.
Okay. So I'm not gonna be called Chicken Little or any other names. You have a habit of that, of calling people names sometimes, and you say you don't intend it. I take offense. So that's the point.
Well, anyways, I like to hear good things.
I know, everybody wants to hear good. Me too.
But
Me too.
You always seem to come up with.
Now, I've got some good news here, but the bottom line is, we just came through a storm. I'll tell you what, I'll go at it right now. I'm amazed at what the Lee County Sheriff's Office, the fire department, our staff did, because I was out there on Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday. And the Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant, you're in the back room. Do you have is it Deputy Spencer? He's new to the district. He came from San Carlos? Yeah, so this young man walked with me, very patient. We went house to house, and you told me what the plan was. If it was a lower house, lower elevation, we went, knocked on those doors, and made sure the people were either there or they weren't. We lifted several garage doors and talked people into leaving. They had a plan all along, what to say, the calmness, what they did. They had trucks up on the top of Pennsylvania Avenue, and if people couldn't get out of their homes, they had 4x4s in there. It was amazing to watch. I was so appreciative. Tony Backhurst, Mr. Patience, and thanks for getting the acronyms out of the presentation, Tony. Great job, you listened. But their work, BSU, their trucks were out there when the tornado warning was going on. BSU was out there working on the lift station. Arlene and her staff, they had this choreographed like a battle plan, which is probably what it was, and they did a phenomenal job. I'm so proud of our staff and our city. We came through this storm better. Our people are more resilient now. The number of people that evacuated that were asked to, that was great. That helped a lot. Half the homes we went to, nobody was there. They were gone. They left. They did the right thing. Along the Pirates, we called it the Pirates Cove, the other side of East Terry, half the people left. And the folks that came through it, Tony brought up the fact there's all these products. People were proud of the fact they had a foot and a half watermark on the outside of their house and nothing inside, because they found all these products and they had sealed up their homes and did great work. How many millions that saved the insurance companies and us?
Were you on Hickory Boulevard?
That's not my district.
Oh, okay.
My district is
I was
District
on
5.
Hickory Boulevard, because I know where that's where the damage is, where the damage was coming,
Okay,
okay? I was down there.
what's your point?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out where you were protecting the people. I'm protecting the people where the damage was.
There was damage.
I'm not talking about protecting people. I'm talking about, we did. We had homes,
What's
I don't know
your
how many, how many homes did we had that we had anywhere from 6 inches to a foot and a half to 2 feet of water in the homes? There's probably 70 or 80 of those along Pennsylvania. Tony, am I wrong on that? Thank you.
That's fine.
That's all I'm responsible for.
Okay, we move along, I suppose. Where are we at? You done?
The only other updates I have is I wanted to make sure you all knew, we will have a draft letter today to the school board requesting the joint meeting. Unfortunately, our hurricane preparations, we have a draft, so we'll get that out to you, circulated to you, so that we can get the mayor's approval on that. And then, I think that was the other. And I just want to remind everyone, we did close for regular government operations on the 26th, but you did have essential personnel deployed the entire time. So just to clarify, that is when we enacted our emergency pay ordinance, and that is going to be reapplied for reimbursement as well.
Okay. Let's go on to the Mayor and council reports. How about Nigel, since you're all warmed up?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, again, to finish the thank you, I think we saved ourselves a lot of money, and I didn't rescue anybody. All I did was walk and talk to people. I think one of the things that we can do better as council people is letting people know, A, about the permits. That's huge, because if they know it's not going to cost them anything, they'll go out and get them. And if people did take a lot of proactive steps, they're a great resource for us to refer to say to people, if you want to save insurance money, cost on insuring your home, if you do these things, your insurance isn't going to go up. On a good news note, for Veterans Day, which is November 11th, we have moved the time to 9 a.m., which will be more appropriate, especially for our older veterans as far as heat goes. But we lost our speaker, who was Colonel Jim Williams from the Marine Corps. And if you all remember, Lieutenant Elder was our speaker Memorial Day. Well, incredible resource. I got a telephone call from Lieutenant General. So don't get used to us getting 3-star generals down here for speakers, but we have a 3-star general who will be our speaker on Veterans Day. Great story. He rose from being a private first class, entered the Army as a private, rose up to the ranks to be a 3-star general. He commanded the National Guard in the United States. He was a national security advisor. He commanded the ground troops in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Talked to him. He's going to be a great speaker. But the funny thing was, when I asked him if he knew where Bonita Springs was, he started laughing. He said, well, being as I have a home there, so he actually has a second home here in Bonita Springs. But he's looking forward to it. We're looking forward to having him. Veterans Committee, they do a phenomenal job, and encouraging people to please come out on Veterans Day. It's going to be very appropriate this year on our 25th anniversary. That's what I've got.
Okay, Fred, you...
No, the only thing I want to make people aware of, because there's people with good intentions that believe that you can fix the Imperial River so it won't flood. That river flooded back twice in the 1800s, recorded flooding, because we had a Corps of Engineers were in here doing surveying of section lines. They set up base camp in the Quinn Street area. And within a few months of them being here, it flooded. There was nothing here but the Indians and a few hunters. So it wasn't development. Second thing is, about a few decades later, there was a little community called Survey that was created. And they set up basically in the Quinn Street area. And within some short period of time after it was set up, they got flooded by the river. Now just think about no roads to mount to anything, no developments, and the other thing you have to understand, when the river is up, it's covering the outlets from all these HOAs that drain, and that way they contribute to the flooding at best, or they flood inside. And everything we have either drains in the river or the creeks and all that. When the creek or the river is above the outlet, it's draining into it. You either stop the drainage, sometimes it backs up, sometimes slows down. It depends on how many inches it's above that outlet. But you need to remember that. And there is no silver, gold, platinum bullet that's going to cure that. Thank you.
Yes, Jamie, you got anything for us today?
Just a few things. Thoughts and prayers to all the families that have been affected by this storm. And like Nigel had said, to all our staff, their hard work they put in, first responders, fire department, police department, BSU. I know it's a lot of hard work and a lot of work still to be done, so we appreciate everything. The fire department did send an engine up to the Big Bend area to run calls. It's part of the state strike team, so there is one engine from the Bonita Springs Fire Department that has gone up. And I think that's about it. Nothing else.
Thank you. Jesse?
Yeah, just real quick, and I wanted to ask the rest of the council if they have heard anything about this or not. I was recently at a public meeting where it was stated that there are rampant hourly flop houses in Bonita Springs, and that we as a council have decided not to discuss it, and LCSO isn't doing anything about it. So I think you're familiar with this gentleman. He's running for mayor. But long story short, he told a room full of people the other night that we have this issue going on. I, for one, have not heard this. I would encourage Tony, and we can get with LCSO too, if we could reach out to Derek Batana and find the locations. Because apparently there are a number of locations that he's familiar with throughout the city where they're having hourly rentals, where they're doing nefarious behavior, and apparently we as a council have known about it and decided not to discuss it. So I just wanted, since we are all here, if anybody else in council has heard of this, let me know. Has anybody heard of this?
No.
Yes,
You have?
yes.
Okay.
At the meeting that John and his team did for our West Terry Street, there were several people that came up, but it's the same place. It's right across from Wonder Gardens, that hotel stretch there, where there's this neon white cash checking place. And then, like across from Grandpa's that area there.
Was that bamboo court?
And then I heard that a massage parlor has happy endings.
Okay, so back to, is anybody aware of rampant hourly?
Yes, they rent and they argue that it's for workers. It's for construction workers.
Okay, so where is this at?
It's
Because when you hear rampant and you hear that we know about it and aren't doing anything
it's the
about it,
same
now it
place
sounds
where
like-
it's been forever, to tell you the truth. Why I was afraid to go down Old 41.
Okay, so if you could provide us, Tony and LCSO, with the locations, and if we could reach out to Derek Batana, he's familiar with a number of them, I think it would be very, very good for us as a city to address it, because I am not aware of any place that is currently doing that.
was shocked too.
So if, again, I think you should talk to LCSO after the meeting.
Okay.
And if you talk to Tony after the meeting, that'd be great too, because I was shocked to hear it. It's not something that I was, prepared to even hear in a public meeting, that we as a council have known about this and ignoring it, but apparently Laura has known about it.
For 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
okay,
I mean,
so-
what is that
so
hearing?
that's it, that's it.
And I
So-
still don't have confirmation
Okay,
of it.
so that said, we should talk to Derek and we should talk to Laura, and if anybody else is aware of these activities, I would urge you to come forward, let the city know so we can take care of it, because, absolutely inappropriate, horrible, but for us as a council, this is nothing that I know if I would have known about it, I would have taken care of it the day of.
Well, for the two guys whose districts that borders, I've not had a single person come to me and say, that's a problem for me. Nor has this council ever discussed this, certainly not privately, sunshine law violation. We've never discussed this as a council, and it's not been brought to my attention or Jesse's, and apparently not anybody else up here, that somebody's going, so rampant, multiple is what I heard.
Yep, multiple
That may
rampant
be a giant overstatement, and maybe there is one or two. We had issues obviously years ago downtown in the warehouse area, but the sheriff's department's done a pretty good job of eradicating that.
So,
In the beginning, we did have a problem on Old 41.
Sure did.
And we made a deal with Lee County Sheriff's Department. We have our own dedicated sheriffs in our area, and we had to buy a paddy wagon to take all the Johns up and write them up. I thought we had that cleaned up. Maybe it's back. It's an old profession.
okay, so I just wanted to bring it up.
We'll get on it. We'll get on it.
No, it's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Laura.
Would you like to contribute?
Sure. And I just heard of it, and I have no verification, so I wanted to sort of talk to the sheriffs to see if they've seen anything, because they're down there all the time. And I'm pretty sure if they knew it was happening, it wouldn't be happening. So I question if the validity of rampant and if it even exists. So we'll see. Lisa reported that housing's down, and it is building, new houses are down, but industrial building is as soon as it's built, it's taken up. So that's why then there's this increased workforce needed, because we're growing and growing. I mean, Arthrex is growing, the airport's growing, and Amazon. I mean, I think they might even bring another plant down here. So we're doing our part, though, with building homes that are affordable and rentals that are coming around. So I'm hoping that it all works very nicely for us in the future.
Chris?
Yeah, Richard Gardner, Chair of BSU, and I continue to talk. We're encouraging the officials, the permitting departments at both BSU and the city, and as well the fire district, to talk about 4 topics. One is creation of what I would call a flow chart as to what the permitting process is, what it involves, what permits have to be obtained, what pre-construction meetings are all about, those kinds of things. Second, how we can make the permitting process more efficient in terms of sharing application information, however we used to do it, before it all got separated several years ago. Take a look at the efficiencies, look at a common building code, because there are differences between the building codes of BSU and the city. Does there need to be differences? Can those differences be reconciled some way, shape, or form, so that we're all working off the same common code? And then a problem resolution process, because sometimes there's a permitting issue between the city and BSU. And instead of having people grind on each other for week after week, month after month, how can we get a pragmatic solution put in place? Andy, the new director of BSU, is very good at, in terms of favoring all this. Greg DeWitt's behind it. I know John's behind it. We're going to have a little get-together on October the 15th to sort of check on, see how things stand, and then we'll give a report back to council. But, as close as we came to a major disaster with Helene, we didn't have that major disaster, but, anything we can do to make the permitting process easier, more understandable, if for no other reason than having gone through a permitting process recently at my church, whether it's us, whether it's the fire district, whether it's BSU, when people talk about it, they blame the city. So, if we can get it, if we can smooth out the process, make it easier, make it better, make it faster and more efficient, then I think we'll all benefit. So we're working on that. I just wanted to report that.
Well, thank you, Chris. This is my major complaint is permitting. I get phone calls, how come it take me this long to do this, that, and the other thing. Yes, I hope we can streamline that to a certain point.
I'm glad I could help you, Mayor.
And I feel sorry. You see the damage that this hurricane's done up in North Carolina, South Carolina. Boy, we thank the Lord for letting it slide by us with minimal amount of damage. And any public comment? No public comment?
Public left.
Guess we're done. We're adjourned.